everyone, my name is Nayan again. I'm working with AWS from last 7 years as a startup solution architect, and my key focus being with fintechs to make sure that they containerize, they save cost, and they make the application bit resilient. And I have prepared a slide deck. Also, I have prepared a demo so that I think whatever I'm going to talk in the slide should be in agile way, so that at least you can understand how we can make sure that our application is resilient using our AWS infrastructure that we have hosted in AWS in India, right? So let me share my screen. Just pause me because I think understand most of us are CEO and CTOs. Let's understand what kind of architecture that we are building and uh, how I can help you. But I don't want to just cover the slide, so that any point of time, if you feel like want to stop me, just tell me and we can go to a demo and discuss the topics. Okay, so let me share my screen. Like, are we like how many of us know like how many regions do you have in like in India? Like how many AWS regions we have? Just a basic sort of question.
I
Can
think
I
two.
answer? Can I answer?
No, no,
Two,
not.
two. You have like one is Mumbai and recently Hyderabad, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the difference between a region and the availability zone? Just what's the difference?
Yeah.
You can.
So availability zone are basically replication or redundancy inside the region itself, so that in case of any uncalled incident, still the region is still protected and you have data replication under the availability zone.
Right. Okay, great. And what about let's say some countries, let's say some EMEA countries, they don't have a AWS region. So what option that AWS can provide you, or what AWS provides in that those countries?
Our country have it, so I never worried about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it. Right.
activity zones, I think, right, the countries that don't have uh, we've seen like some availability zones in available there. Is that the case?
So I'll put in this way, right? So one of the AWS leader always use this motion, like this is, let's say this particular hand is a Mumbai region and this is an Hyderabad region. So all these fingers are, you can talk as availability zone. So basically what makes a region is where you have data, right? Let's say in India we have Mumbai, right? All the data stored there, all the services runs there, right? So that's what a region is. That's a geographic region in Mumbai. But let's say in a region it consists of multiple availability zone. So availability zones are nothing but the collection of data centers. So in Mumbai you have three availability zones. So one availability zone, let's say Mumbai AP South 1A, 1B, and 1C. 1A can consist of multiple data centers. It can vary from 1 to 10 or 15 that data center that is up. So when it comes to resilient application, right, most of our customer do resiliency using multi-AG setup. So they run a application in one AG and they make sure that the same application is get replicated, or this compute layer or application layer or let's say database layer get replicated to other AG, and they make sure that one of the AG itself consists of multiple data center, right? And all these availability zones data centers are having redundant power. It's not like one power system will be used for one of the all the data center in AG. It's all resilient application that, or a resilient when it's building the application or data center, right? Those concept also AWS has used and make sure that even though your application is having one AG, they're making it very much resilient. Okay, so that's the concept of availability zone. And again, uh, the surprising, like the good part is, let's say your country, let's say one of the EMEA country doesn't have any kind of availability zones or let's say region, we still provide something called local zones or outpost. AWS also go there and install the rack, and so that you can have your data residency need. Okay, that's one of the solution that we still provide. Let me quickly check again. Yeah, now it's working. So let me share my screen, right? Here it is, like I'll go through slide, but again, not necessarily all this part relevant to every organization, but at least the whole idea is how to have a multi-region setup. Now now we understand what is a region and what is availability zone, and how our other customers are making use of the availability zone and region when they design their architecture, and what kind of DR strategies available as of today, which helps if something happens to one of the region or one of the availability zone, how they are recovering it. Okay, so that's the whole context I'm going to cover, and I can show a quick demo which I have built an application here. So if you see its application, and I'll just do a quick failover. Like all my application is running in Mumbai, and I'll just do any kind of test what you like, and then I'll just see how the traffic immediately get swiped to my Hyderabad without no downtime to my application or to my customer. So those sort of configuration I can just so that's what at least you can understand how to make sure a resilient application in AWS, how to run a resilient application, right? So with that, I'll just go through basics like when the question first comes, right? Whenever I go any kind of discussion, the customer say that, hey, I need a multi-region architecture, right? So the first question that we ask a lot of time is why you need that, right? So any of you are planning for a multi-region, want to give a try, why exactly you're looking for a multi-region architecture?
So one can be latency if your customer base is spread across different geography. Latency is one of the primary reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so that is one something I can think of at top of mind.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and that's actually we have seen we divide it into multiple patterns, right? And this latency things comes very often. My customer want to make sure that wherever my resources are hosted or wherever my data is located, my customer should be near to that location. Not like I'm not okay with my application is getting solved after 500 millisecond or 400 milliseconds. I don't want my RPM to go more than 50 or 60, whatever value there. So it's not making efficient if their application is giving a response after 2 minutes or 1 minute, right? It doesn't solve the use case, right? So that is one of the nice, or that is one of the
One,
correct use case that you have
yeah,
talked.
one more thing would be compliance, right? Where the data is residing, and like especially if it's a European country, then you want to have the GDPR compliance and other compliance. So compliance is something which again would force you to have data in different region. Like you would like to
Data
query
residency, data
data
residency.
residency where the data is residing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So most of the time, again, this also comes. I don't want my data to be go out of this country, or I want to make sure that whoever or whatever API calls or my customer is calling or my customer data is stored, it has to be within that region. Okay, so that has to be another use case. Anything else?
Data backup. Sometimes, I want my data to be backed up.
Okay.
Region.
So why you can back up in a centralized location?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you are partly right. You want to make sure that if something happens, I can quickly recover within some period of time, right?
So let's say
that
like Mumbai, the terrorist attack, or let's say different seismic zones sometimes,
exactly.
if an earthquake in Mumbai, then
More
Yeah.
failover scenarios. Okay.
Yeah.
One more scenario that I can think of. Um, Maybe that can be handled at application level is if you have a lot of customization for different specific reason, then probably you would like to deploy those let's say if I'm building an app which has a completely different interface or business logic for a different reason, let's say something for Asia and something for non-Asian countries, then it makes sense to have them
Language.
separate as well. That's yeah.
Yeah, perfectly. That is what we have also most of the time we have seen, because see, let's say something on transaction application, right? So let's say every government they have a different way of the local understand a different language, or the public that going to use that application is understand a specific language they want to, or what is the most common ads that that particular country or people understand is not relevant to other, right? So I want to want a specific UI for that particular country, and I'll have another UI for the country who understand or connects to the particular application through different ways. So yeah, again, these are all the valid use case why you want to go for multi-region. But again, let me ask this question I always ask to them: why don't they should not first consider multi-region? Because see, multi-region means again you have to deploy the same thing in two places, right? Kind of, right? Because same stack has to be deployed in another region. and it's again, you need effort, you have to give cost, you have to bear the cost that is running in the other region, and your effort is also going because you have to maintain it, right? You have to test it continuously, because it's not like I created the app in the other region and it should be run as it go, right? It has to be well tested, and it has to be drilled nicely, so that something happen at the point of time you should be able to know your application should be running. Or it's just not the sake of showing to a auditor that okay, I have a TI running, or I have an application running in the other region. But again, it doesn't help if something really goes down in the primary region, right? So there's a lot of effort and a lot of time we go into that discussion, where we first tell customer that okay, hey, these are all the cons that you're going to see, or these are all the points you should consider before you do a multi-region architecture, or before you design a multi-region architecture. But again, if your business priority is going, it's more about data availability or highly available, it should be, you cannot afford even a single millisecond of downtime. That's where you should consider some of the application to move to the multi-region architecture. If your application, even let's say my application consists of multiple dependent applications, it's just not that amazon.com, for example, I give, right? Amazon.com is just not amazon.com, it has a lot of branches, lot of connection, lot of sub url that we have, right? So all this, the major application is amazon.com. I want to make sure that every time amazon.com should be available, right? I cannot even a single millisecond, I don't want downtime. In those kind of tier 0 application, you should consider as a multi-region. That's the first thing that you consider when you think about multi-region. Is it my tier 0 application, and any downtime is not negotiable for me. That's where you consider multi-region architecture. Okay, so again, I think, well, the screens comes up, right? This is the default 32 regions are available. You know what is a region and how the regions is built up. It's built up with multiple availability zones. In India specifically, we have two regions, which is Mumbai and Hyderabad. And again, every region has three availability zones. It's again, the availability zones are nothing but collection of data center, and every availability zone at least consists of multiple data center, so that if something goes wrong in one of the data center, other data center can fulfill the requirement that you customer have, or that request is coming. So we do a nice forecasting, and based on that we create data center, we create racks, and we build the racks, and then we forecast and we make sure that it is available, or it's really handy, when customer need it. So that's all about multi available. Okay, now let's understand what is I think you all answer, I think you all know what is the availability zone. Just to make sure that I have a 3-tier architecture, I think most of the application that I have seen based on 3-tier architecture, right? It's at a front end load balancer, and then request comes to your compute layer, and then go to the database layer, right? So you can still have your application redundant is running in high availability mode in multiple availability zones. Let's say if your application is running in Mumbai, you can see your application have an load balancer, central load balancer, that can send requests to targets compute, and then compute can go to the database. So this is again 3-tier architecture you must be knowing. But again, any doubt in this part, let me know. So this is again how you can achieve high availability within a region itself. Till now, in history, AWS region has never gone down. So even multiple times our service affected in US region, right? It's only affect the particular service. Okay, before I go there, so how many do you know what are the kind of different services that we have? Zonal services, regional services, global services? Because these are all very once we know this thing, then it will be resilience is very easy. Anyone give a try? What is a zonal service? What is a regional service? What is a global service? In this diagram, maybe you can use this diagram. I think there is a lot of hints here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the very specific thing like S3 is something which is available globally. You don't have to select region wise. Then there's so basically what my understanding is how you configure the application, and where, let's say, if you want to have the application spread across three different region, or three different three different region, but you want to share the common database, right? So probably you would have the database as a horizontal thing, rather than otherwise you would get into the scenario where you have to synchronize data between the database. Either you create a master slave, or you have replica of the database. So based on that, I'm not very clear on the definition of zonal service, regional service, and global
Okay.
service, but the concept wise, this is what I understand.
I think some partial correction needed here. Just to be, yeah, you tried, but let me just correct it here. So zonal services means, if you see, we have in one region, let's consider this whole as a region, Mumbai region, right? We have multiple availability zone A, B, and C, right? So what zonal service does is, it has to be run in one of the availability zone. Let's say for EBS, right? EBS is a zonal service. You cannot use this EBS volume in availability zone B. You cannot share that volume, whatever data you have in EBS volume here in availability zone 1, you cannot share it to other availability zones. Any EC2 instances running here can only use this volume. They cannot cross the volumes which are in other availability. That's a zonal service for me. Whatever happened, if let's say this zone is down now, complete EBS on that particular volume, no one can access this. It's down for me. So when you design an architecture, you have to understand each and every services that you're using. For let's say, for example, compute, it's again a zonal services. This EC2 down, I cannot use the same EC2 in other availability zones, right? So that's what a zonal services. But when it's S3, if you see S3, right, it's a regional services. What it means is, whenever you create an S3 bucket, it has to be available in 3 availability zones. What I mean is, you create S3 bucket, the same object will be backed up in all the availability zones, 1A, 1B, 1C. Anytime your 1A is down, it will be still available in the copy will be still available in availability zone B and C. Let's say this is got impaired, this got down, that particular object will be now kind of not accessible, but the moment it comes up, the replication will happen between other available healthy availability zone to the new one. So that's why when you create a regional resources, you are making sure that you're creating 3 copies or 2 copies, or how many availability zones in that particular region, or 6 copies in US. And that's why you are making a redundant. S3 is again 99.999. What it means is, you create an object, it has there is a chance of getting deleted in 10,000 year once if you put some 10 file, like 10 million files. So that's why you make sure that that's a durability. But again, S3 and DynamoDB all are regional services. What it means is, it's spread across multiple edges. Something is global service, what is IAM. Let's say you create an IAM user, it's available for all the region. What I mean is, I create an IAM user, I can log into any of the availabilities or the region available in my AWS console. But what happened, let's say one of the Mumbai is down. What I cannot do is, I cannot create the rules, or I cannot create the copies in that particular region. So that's how AWS has divided all the services into multiple zonal services, regional services, and global services. So mostly global services are, we are providing 100% SLA, because what we are making is, we are making sure that if one of the region goes down, only that small data plane operation cannot be done, but control plane, everything will be safe in the US East or other region. Okay, before I go there, so AWS has also created a concept of data plane and control plane. Anyone aware what is this? Because these are, I want to touch this basic, so that it will be helpful to design, or at least instruct the team. They should understand those concepts before they create the architecture. Anyone can give it a try? What is a control plane and data plane? If not, I can give it a try quickly. Okay, so these are all, I'll just show. Okay, so again, go back to the same picture. So what is a control plane is, let's say, for example, IAM I told, right? So when you create an IAM user, what happen is, your IAM record store in one of the particular US East region, but all the record get propagated to all the other regions that we have. It's Mumbai, it's Hyderabad, or it's Singapore. Everyone it is get propagated. That means any kind of okay, IAM might be difficult. Second example, I'll give an example with compute. So whenever you're creating an EC2 instance, right? For example, you are telling a lot of things, like you create an X type, you create with 32 GB RAM with some volume, you give an instruction, right? So what happens is, control plane decides, or control plane create a template, and then finally one EC2 instance get created for you. So all the services that you see in AWS that has a control plane parameter, which take a decision, and you as a, let's say you want to at the end creating an application, let's say Tomcat application or Java application, you run inside that particular OS, right? That's where comes the data plane. So data plane is managed by customer, and control plane is managed by AWS. So that's the concept of control plane and data plane. So any point of time when you design for high availability, right, you think that I should, or customer should have very less dependent on the control plane. Basically what I mean is, let's say I want to make sure that I have three EC2 instances in three of the availability zones. One here, one here, one here. Now, what I will make sure that in the three availability zones, everything is traffic is coming. I'm happy. Now, what happen is I know that my application can be handled in three availability zones. Sorry, three instances. So this will be enough for me. Let's say something happened to this particular availability zone 1A, completely down. So what will happen is only two instances will be remain for me, right? Two instances will be available. Now the traffic will be increased because earlier it was three instances were able to handle the load, but now only two instances are available. Now what will happen is that can affect the application customers' behavior. Like they are actually they'll start seeing latency, they'll start seeing throughput. So how you can avoid is you can also some customer do extra provisioning. So if you remember, we had some kind of outage in US East 1, and few of our customers do not have any impact. So what they did is they have used the concept of static stability in resiliency. So what they did is they have created extra one instances in each of the availability zone, so that every time whenever there's something one of the availability zone 1A go down, still they have extra instances to back up in the other availability zone. So that way they make sure that they are not dependent on control plane down. Anything happen in the control plane, any operation I'm not making to do, or let's say something goes down, their data plane or their actual application or core business logic is not at all get affected. Is that clear, or any question here? So when you design for highly available or a resilient application, just think about two things. Those services that I'm going to use, are they regional or are they zonal or are they global services? And if they, what kind of static stability I'm maintaining with the application? Am I really dependent a lot on my control plane? If something goes in the AWS down, am I going to affect, or is my application is going to be affect badly for my customer? So those things, those two mentality or mental model, if you have, right, it will very easy for to build a resilient application with AWS. Cool. If no question, maybe I can just quickly. So I think you all know this. Whenever a data center, I just always spoke it verbally, and how the things work. I just want to skip it. Again, regions for multi-region. You talked about. First thing is disaster recovery. So let me just spend some time here, right? I'll just skip here. I'll just come back. Okay. How many what is the difference between disaster recovery and high availability? Anyone give a try? Because these two, from the time I have been joining AWS, I myself even think that both are same for me. But again, recently with working with a lot of customer, I actually getting a difference. What is disaster recovery? And actually it's different from my high availability. Anyone give a try? What is the difference? It's already here. So it's already shown in the page, but anyone want to give it a try?
I think high availability is like, let's say if I put it across more regions, across more availability zones, like even I use the local zones maybe to reduce my latency or other things also, then I would call that as highly available. And disaster recovery is like, even if I have one backup and let's say I just use maybe 2 data centers, it means I just have a backup in place in case, let's say, one goes down.
Correct. So I think again, yes, somewhat right. Just want to add some points to it. So this high availability, disaster recovery, and continuous improvement, these three are the mental model of resiliency today.
Okay.
So when you say that my application is resilient, it's not just that I am high available. High available means one application is running in two availability zones. For me, it's a high available for me, right? But what if that complete region is down? That's not high available, right? That's where my application even goes down. And let's say I'm running multiple region in this setup. Let's say what happened, there's a dependent application which is down. It's not an high available, right, anymore. But in the case of disaster recovery, it's the extreme use cases, extreme scenario. Let's say something happened completely, Mumbai is goes down, flood attack or terrorist attack or flood happen. So then after how much time, or after what is my data loss? Or after how much time I am able to recover my application. That's all the concept comes in a disaster recovery, right? So let's see that in action. So these are the concept of these are the strategies that we are suggesting to customer as of today, right? So most of the time when it's startups, we are just suggesting pilot, right? I'll tell you why, but these are the 4 type of strategies that we have been suggesting to customer when it comes to recover your application if something happened to your application. So first one is backup and restore. So what is backup and restore is you run your application complete in Mumbai, something happened to Mumbai. What you have is you have a copy or you have a snapshot which you want to recover within a given period of time. You take a snapshot regularly, you take incremental backup, and whenever something happens, what you do is you create a complete entire stack in the other Hyderabad region. That's one way backup and restore. But only thing is here the RPO and RTO are in hours. Okay, I think everyone understand what is RPO and RTO, right? I think it's very
Just define it once, Nayan. I think it will be good.
okay. Let me just go here somewhere. I just have it. Okay, I think I didn't put in the slides. Apologize. Okay, I think okay. I'll explain it. Okay, so RPO and RTO is RPO stand for recovery point objective. RTO stand for recovery time objective. Okay, so what it means is, let's say I am at time is 6:45, right? Let's say for example, hypothetical 6:45 is the time now. My application is running in Mumbai. Everything is fine. Now my application went down, right? So what is my RTO is, let's say I have set a RTO of 10 minutes. My customer is okay if the application comes after 10 minutes. If the application is up and running after 10 minutes, that's the RTO for me. This you have to define based on your customer requirement, right? Customer is okay, 10 minutes my application can go down at extreme scenario and I'm happy with it. I'm still okay with it. Not happy with it, but I'm still okay with it. That's where the RTO you define. But RPO means how much data loss can be done in that particular scenario. Let's say, for example, it's 6:45. What is my latest backup? Let's say my latest backup is taken at 6 o'clock. That means I'm losing data of 45 minutes, right? So that is the RPO. That means I have 45 minutes of data got lost and I'm okay with it or not okay with it, you define it. We have a service that can tell you, let's say, for example, you run an application. I'll show it in demos. Then if you run application theater application, you define that, okay, I want my application RTO should be 1 minute and my RPO is 10 minutes. That particular service of AWS, Resilience Hub, we call that will tell you whether this particular RPO and RTO can be possible with the design architecture that you have currently or not. So it actually reads your application and tells you that no, you cannot do it. And it will tell you exact time, how much time it will take to recover your application and what will be the RPO and RPO value it will define. And then it will give you recommendation also. Tell, okay, if you do these changes, if you follow these operational best practices, your application RTO and RPO can be improved to whatever that you have defined. We have a service for that. Okay, and that's absolutely free for 6 months and 3 application can be used. So I'll just show it when it comes to demo time, but these are the basic, like RPO is recovery point objective and RTO is recovery time objective. Okay, when it comes to sorry about that. When it comes to any kind of application disaster recovery strategy, so RPO of and RTO of backup and restore is high because you have to take you have taken backup, but again you have to restore it. It's a process, right? You have to restore it and then you have to run an application. That takes time. That's where it takes a lot of time, but only thing is the cost is very less. So if you see, because nothing will be running, right? Just you have taken the snapshot on taken S3, but again there will be no cost. Only thing is you have to your application RTO and RPO will be increased. Other than that, something called pilot light. I think I have screen share for that. Okay, let's start with backup and restore. This is where your application is running on USS2. So what you have is you take a backup server, you take all the application backup and put it in S3. Whenever some disaster happen, you then need to recover and you run the application. That's what backup restore does. The other strategy is something called pilot light. Most of the startups that I have been working, we are suggesting pilot light, and that helps you in multiple ways, right? So what you do is typically, if you see here, my application is currently running in USS2. What I'll do is I'll keep on taking the database will be in sync. And what I'll do is I'll just start a server with a minimal configuration. Let's say my all application app server 2 is running in M5 Blast or a big CPU, big memory. I don't need to do all these things. What I will do is I'll just start the application with just small T2 small or something, so that at least my traffic is coming, but all the requests will be coming to the main primary region. The moment something happens, then what will happen is I'll just use my web server and I'll just start my application scaling. So that way you are going to spend only less cost, or you're just spending cost on the low compute power or low intense power. Okay, and then you start bringing your web server and you start sending the traffic to the other region. So that way you can make sure that your application is kind of stack is ready with low resources, and then you start scaling your application. That is one of the major strategy that most of the startup has been using. In that way, what you're saying is, okay, my data is getting replicated and my data is available, and I just have to have one server which is just doing some small operation, and I'll just kickstart it, or I'll just make sure that I'll start my application whenever their actual register happen. Is there any doubt in this diagram or any question here?
I have one question. So a little different use case. So I represent a startup called Stolo. We are an option trading platform. So we have a dependency of from morning 9 till 3:30. Um, our platform cannot go down for 1 second as well. The moment it goes down, people start complaining, people start blaming for their losses and every damn thing, right? So what we have done is something similar to what you're saying is we have replicated server where we have two server running, and if and whenever we are deploying for, let's say if we're doing any hot fix or any patch fix that we have to deploy, we deploy it on the first server first, and if everything is working fine, perfect. If anything breaks, then we switch the load balancer, we switch to the next server. So there is still code back, because the time that it takes also to deploy or to build your code and deploy, it's still quite a lot of time. Like it takes a couple of minutes, and the users would not get the data those time. So what do you recommend in terms of handling such scenario where traffic is not distributed throughout the day, but there peak time of the day where traffic is very high? How the structure or how the architecture can be done so that cost wise it doesn't shoot up, at the same time you're not just uh, have left resources open because someday something would go wrong. I hope I made it clear.
Okay, I think what I understand is you have by 9 to 3:30, let's whatever timing that you have
Yeah.
peak traffic, and you run your application in one of the complete region, and in that period of time you cannot expect a single second of downtime,
Yes.
and you want to use multi-region
Not exactly multi-region. It can be in the same region, one more, let's say server EC2 instance or so the most of the time the issue might not be from AWS side or a infrastructure side. Maybe we made a hot fix or we made a patch fix for something, and although everything was tested and all the test case passed, but when went in production for whatever reason, like so many our business depends on data from multiple providers. Like let's say if NSC doesn't give the data on time, a lot of things will start breaking, right? So for that to have fail safe, so what we have is we have replicated our server, and we switch dynamically based on if there's error and all. So do you recommend something else, or is there a service in AWS which can take care of this automatically?
Yes, so again, you have to depend on the APM tools, monitoring and observability tools here. Okay, that's what can help you out. I don't have the exact slide, but again, very much similar. I have worked with one of the customer, and what we have done is any kind of any kind of pipelines, basically a hot fix that you're making, right? That's build a CI/CD pipeline, right? So what we have a service like the resiliency hub that I was talking, right? That we can integrate with all the CI/CD. I don't know what CI/CD pipeline you're using, but we can deep dive on how we can integrate with our AWS tool. But majorly the answer to this question with multiple ways, I have done it with customers who are using third-party APM tools and who are doing AWS tools, right? So this is one of the diagram switching to DR, right? So or forget about DR, switching to another availability zone in your case. So based on few metrics also, you can take an alarm or create some kind of alarm, and that can trigger the pipeline, or that can allow that it's a right build or the build has some issues. Based on that, decision can be taken. So it's all again boiled down to what kind of observability tool that you have, and what kind of metrics do you measure for that particular hot fix or changes that you're doing. Based on that, you can take a call. So it's not a fixed, but again, it depends on your observability stack that you have in your place that can help you to recover those scenario quickly as soon as possible. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, recently I have done in one of the startup, I think Suchir no. So there we have a very similar use case, but at least what we are doing is we want to make sure that any such changes happen, right? That has to go through proper testing, that has to regularly kind of chaos way of making it, and then once it is approved, once the metrics looks good, then only you deploy it in the other region or other availability zone. So those sort of blue greens kind of we have set it up. But again, the answer to your question will be done through some kind of observability stack that I can recommend.
And what do you consider about, let's say, if there are multiple EC2 instance behind a load balancer, like deploying patch fixes to first few instances and then rolling it out for everyone else?
So how critical? Let's say it is a very critical app. I think the suggested approach will be go to blue-green approach. You deploy it one by, or else you can also use the rolling fashion. So one app, one instances, then go keep on having a minimum threshold or maximum threshold, right? 50%, 200%. Those setup you can do. That will be a suggested approach. But again, mostly if you're okay with the cost, then you can have a complete blue-green supplement. But actually, most of the customers that have been working, they do rolling update. It's fairly working good, and based on that, actually if you are containerized also, no, I can suggest to use some kind of liveliness, no, not liveliness, sorry, what is it called, pod setting, which can help you to know again do the scaling out. So we have multiple option if it is in microservice way, but the approach is to go for learning update.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I think I was in this slide, yeah. So pilot light we have. So again, you just create the backup. Sorry, I think I'll go to last stage of warm standby, not last but warm standby. So very similarly, what happen is you create the replication of the database, and instead of here, let's say I have creating auto scaling group where you have 3 instances. What you do is you create an instance of only one. So earlier, what we saw in the pilot light is, let's say it's a big instance. I am just creating a small configuration instance, but here I'm not creating that. I'm just doing a scaling part. I'm creating again app server 1, which is of same configuration. But only thing is I'm not scaled up the app server 2, 3, everything. Okay. Whenever something happens, so I'm keeping my infrastructure warm, and whenever this happen, I can have a lambda, or I can, based on some metrics, I'll just scale it the auto scaling group and then create application server. So it's a very similar to pilot light, but only thing is you have to have the same kind of configuration, like whatever you are being used here, you can use here, but you can replicate in the other region with same configuration. But only thing is your cost will be slightly high, and RPO and RTO again reduces to second or minutes. Okay, that's the only thing. This is the diagram, and last one is active. So active, I'll just go in the last slide. But active is again, as I said, only extreme use cases where you can leverage a lot of it will additional cost, and again zero downtime kind of scenario, near zero time. I don't call every time zero time; it's near zero time, and you do not want any kind of data loss. So that's where you can go for multiple active. So these are all the mental model. But any questions so far? Anyone else? I think if this is clear, I think most of the other thing will be like kind of just can be done in a very easy way. But the other thing I was talking about, data residency requirement, I think you all covered. Let's say, for example, I have region 1A, and my other region is 1B. But again, there is some kind of customer who are not okay with sharing the data. So in those cases also, I need to have a multi-region setup, so that at least my all the tenant who are accessing the application should be only accessible from the particular region or particular local zone that they are connecting. For example, this tenant A, B, and C, tenant 1 and 3, Route 53 will decide that, okay, they can only reach to this particular load balancer. Those settings you can configure at Route 53 level, geo-based location, or let's say specific static IP-based. So all these things you can configure in a multi-region setup. And that's the only hard and first requirement. If you have like, okay, this particular customer cannot access the other data residency need, and then you can have a multi-region kind of setup. So that's what help. Again, this is a basic diagram of how we are located as of now. As I said, we have multi-regions in 32 countries, but apart from that, we have also created something called local zone. How many of you know what is local zone? Just want to give it a try, because we are with the adoption of local zone is kind of keep on increasing for fintechs. So I'll tell you why. Also, I've been working with 2 fintechs recently. They wanted their solution in Nigeria and Oman and another country, right? Okay, Suchir, I think, yeah, not remember the country, but This is where local zone helps. So any idea what is local
I
zone?
think Egypt, I believe, right?
Egypt, yeah. Correct. So local zone is nothing but it's another availability zone. So what it means is, so in one region, let's say in Mumbai, I have AP South 1A, 1B, 1C, right? So what local zone is in India is Kolkata and Chennai. So what it means is, let's say I have user in Kolkata and in Chennai. So they want to access any kind of gaming application, right? They want to access that application within millisecond. If the data goes to from Chennai to Mumbai or Chennai to Hyderabad, there is some kind of delay, right? It's not acceptable for the customer. So what we have done is we have created something called local zone. So local zone will be the parent data, the parent control plane will be sitting in Mumbai, but your data will be sitting in Chennai. Your customer, let's say you are as a uploading your application or you are creating application in Chennai, all your data will be residing in Chennai, but you will be using Mumbai parent zone to communicate. Let's say, for example, you are creating a EC2 instance, the API call will go to Mumbai, but your EC2 instance at the end will be created in Chennai, or your data will be stored in Chennai, everything. So whenever any your customer access try to application in Chennai, it will be within microsecond. Similarly, in Kolkata, we have also another local zone, so that any customer in Bangladesh or let's say Kolkata in that particular zone, right, they want to access their application very first, they will just hit within millisecond. Okay, but whenever they create an instance, all the API call will, all the control plane operation will happen through the Mumbai. And is it clear what is a local zone? It's just another subnet or another availability zone you can consider. So whenever we go to customer, we just tell that it's another subnet in the main VPC that you create, extending to your place or extending to your nearest place. Is it clear?
Yeah. So what was the difference between local zone and edge location?
Correct. So edge location, you cannot create resources. Let's say, for example, you want to create a EC2 instance, right? Can you create an edge location? No, right? So all the resources, local zone is nothing but, let's say you're creating VPC, sorry, you're creating a load balancer, or let's say you're creating EC2, you're creating S3, all these things, your resources or AWS physical, the actual compute thing, you can create in local zone. It's nothing but another subnet for you, which is nearly located to. But again, in edge location, it's a kind of cloud front, right? Your request or your dynamic request will be hit there, and then based on that, your traffic will be get routed. But your actual resource also present in that particular location. That's the main difference. Is it clear?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So actually, your EC2 is sitting in Kolkata now, not in Mumbai. That's what.
Okay. Okay.
The last thing is outpost. It's not last, like we have wavelength also. I have not added it, but at least what outpost does is, let's say, for example, you want to set up something in your Egypt data center. Okay, you have a bank which say that, okay, no, I cannot allow anything. I can allow something which is in my data center only, in Egypt data center only. So what you do is, but again, the developer likes AWS, they like the flavor of AWS. What we can do is, they can connect with AWS and we can procure outpost, and that will be get installed in that particular country's place, right? So that at least you, whatever services that you are using in AWS, you can still use, but only thing the data, the racks and everything will be installing in that particular outpost location that you have. That's about outpost. So that, let's say, for example, you want to have a full rack, your EBS, all your EC2, S3, everything will come in the picture. So that's what outpost is. So in way, whenever it comes to data residency, multi-region application, these are all the things customer are using. I have seen fintech, they use application running in local zone plus multiple availability zones to make it application very resilient. The whole point of adding this is, what else can be part of my resiliency, right? So that is why I have mentioned all these services. The last bit is control tower. Control tower is again one of the services. It's again, I'm talking about services, but it's the last one. This is again a way of governance. So let's say, for example, I want to make sure that whoever developer or whoever DevOps team is sitting, they can only create certain resources in my Mumbai, or let's say in my particular country. They cannot create resources in South Africa or let's say Oman or whatever, right? So what I define it a control tower way. I create some kind of landing zone and their resources will be get created. I do not want to make sure that if anything breach from there, it should not be allowed. So those setup, you can governance, you can set it to the control tower, right? Cool. Again, I think we discussed about low latency user experience. These are all. So Okay, this is a summary of what we discussed. But again, it's all about data we talked, right? But data is not everything, right? Data is there, but again, you need connectivity and you need security. When it's fintech, it has to be secure and it has to be network should be connected, right? So when it multiple region, when we talk about multi-region, the first thing is how I can connect my multiple region, right? That's the first solution that we provide, which is VPC peering. So what you do is you create one in US East or Mumbai or in Hyderabad. What you do is you peer the VPC so that it will be all the communication will be happen through AWS backbone. So you do not have to worry about lot of data going to your internet and then coming from internet to your other VPC. So that's the first thing that we suggest. So again, multiple times VPC peering has been working, but in multiple high availability cases, activity cases, multi customer don't generally do VPC peering because again, because of certain because there's no use, right? Because you are actually creating resources there as well. So then if there is a real dependency, you can use through VPC peering. And again, it's not one VPC, right? Multiple customers use a multiple VPC. And for that, you can use transit gateway. So you can peer the VPC through transit gateway, and that way you can also have connectivity. So it can they're all take part of where you can have low latency application through AWS backbone. But again, if you want to dive deep, I can very well explain the services, but at least understand that when it comes to multi-region, we should have a low latency connectivity between them, and how it is achievable through VPC peering or let's say transit gateway, or let's say through an NLB plus inter-region VPC peering. These are also one of the use cases I want to talk about. One of my customer wanted that, okay, I want to run NLB in one region, but my target should be in another region. So this is what a typical use case in one of the fintech I have seen. That's why I have included. So yeah, these are all the possible options. And the last bit is global accelerator, right? So it's again a new services that we launch so that you'll have one single IP, like how you have elastic IPs, you have one single global IP, and based on that, you can route your traffic to any of the region that you have. Let's say you are running a multiple application, one in Mumbai and one in the other region. Something goes wrong here, still your traffic can go to multiple other location. So that is also possible today, and that through global accelerator. A lot of customers today in EKS or in containerized application, they use global accelerator and make sure that they provision everything in Mumbai, and in the Hyderabad region, they only create the cluster, EKS cluster, nothing in the data plane side. So whenever there's something happen, they warm up the instances and make sure that the global accelerators send the request to the other availability, other region, Hyderabad region. So that is one way of doing it. So again, the whole point of covering all these 4 slides was, apart from data, what kind of network connectivity and security that you need to make sure that you can achieve through a multi-region setup. Okay. And again, last bit is Route 53. As we talk, you can just go through. Just I think, can you see a quick demo? Maybe that will show how these things are. I'll just show a quick demo. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Cool. So see, I'll just explain this demo how it goes. So this is a simple application. Okay, you are able to see complete screen, right? I am still seeing this.
I
So
can
this,
see your AWS Summit Mumbai. Vote for your favorite AWS services.
yeah. Nothing on this like screen share, pause, everything. No, you're not seeing, right?
No,
Okay.
that's not it.
Okay, so this is a simple application. Okay, what I'm trying to show is it can be any of your application, right? So how I have made this application very resilient. Okay, very highly resilient, I would say. Okay, so this application is can be think of like, let's say you are using COVID app, or let's say COVID time, right? Or let's say you are using Ola app or any other app, right? So you do not want to make sure that your app even single millisecond downtime is not acceptable. So this is similar application I want to build. So I have built here. Okay, so this application is nothing but it's just saying that, okay, what is your favorite service? It asks my customer and they can vote it. Like it's nothing to do with any services here actually. Just give me like just to show like it can be anything, right? So let's say for example, I want to see that, okay, what is your favorite services? Let's say I say RDS is my favorite services. So what will happen is, where is RDS? Yeah, 145 is the vote number. It will change to 146 now. I have just voted. So you'll see in a minute. Yeah, it changes to 146, right? So that means it's a simple application that I built, and anything. The other important information it says is, okay, whenever this application is running, it is getting served from AP South 1A, which is AP South 1C or 1B or 1C. Okay, so this is getting served from there. That means the API call, everything is coming from the Mumbai region, right? That is the whole thing that I have built in application. Just show a demo. But again, nothing to do with your application. It can be anything. The only thing is it shows that where the application API is getting served and what time is the time. And let's go to my architecture now. Okay, so this is a typical architecture of my application. My request comes to my Route 53. Whenever I put this about the favorite service, right, request comes here, and then it goes to the load balancer, and then all the processing happen at the compute layer, which is ECS or EKS, anything. I have choose the ECS here, and then once it is get processed, it persisted in the DynamoDB table. Is it clear, application wise, or any question here? Got it?
I think
Cool.
Yeah.
Got it. So request comes to Route 53. Route 53, I have some kind of load balancer, and load balancer. It's not three load balancer, just for pictorial improvement. It's one load balancer, and again it go to ECS. Any of the ECS get processed and they get persisted in my DynamoDB. And DynamoDB, what I have to do is I've just synced the DynamoDB. Both the DynamoDB are in sync, global table and concept, right? So it's all synced. Now what happens is, let's say I want to make sure my resilience, like my application is resilient or not. So let's say some kind of scenario. These are 5 scenarios that I have seen most of my customer, right? Let's say there can be scenario where your ECS can be go down, like the compute layer can be go down, or task can be go down, right? Or even DynamoDB can be go down, or even complete Mumbai region is go down, right? These are all, or even one of the AGs go down. So in that scenario, I want to make sure that whatever happen, my request should not get dropped, and my application should not get my application what is running, right, should not get dropped, and I should be able to run it at any point of time. Okay, so let's see which one we want to see. Let's start give an option to customer, like let's say which one you want to see, which scenario you want to see. Let's see how we can how we have built it very resilient. Any specific one you want to try? AG or regional, anything?
Let's go with the fifth one, regional impairment.
Okay, but at least before we go there, I think, are we clear about the application architecture, right? So I think
Right.
everyone is clear.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. So let's see, complete isolate my Mumbai. Okay. So what happened is, typically this is a pictorial representation who is saying that no traffic is going here now anymore. Okay. But so what typical happen is, I just want to simulate this kind of failure. So showing that, okay, see, my isolation started in AP South 1. So none of my request will go to this particular region. Okay. So I'll see how I have built it, but at least to make sure that we'll see. So let's say after some time, this will be changing to AP South 2A, because 2A is where our application is running, right? So basically what happened is, what I have did here is, there is something called fault injection simulator. What I'm doing is, whenever I'm clicking this and isolate entire region, none of my traffic is going here. So here I have used something called Route 53 health check. So basically in the Route 53, you can configure health check. So this health check is saying it's a deep health check. Deep health check means it's saying it's just not your ALB or ELB is available. It has to also give me some kind of response from your database. That means I know that Route 53 only is going to send traffic to this particular Mumbai region whenever both my health checks are passing. This is called composite health check, that you asked, right? How I can make sure that if something goes wrong in my patching or something, right? So this is how I can configure that. If my deep health check is failing, let's not send any more traffic. But see, it's a pictorial view, right? But I will see how my data is actually getting replicated, right? So that is where I have used some kind of Grafana integration. Like, so I have created a Grafana dashboard. This says that any point of time, whatever things happening to your Mumbai region, you just give me all the metrics here, okay? And whatever happening here, you just give the complete metrics in the Hyderabad. So if you see here now, slowly all my AP South 1A, 1B, 1C will start terminating to red. That means this will be going to terminate to unhealthy. So all this, you see, my DynamoDB go down. All the traffic will go down here, request will go down. All the traffic will start booming in my Hyderabad region. And after some time, if you see here, all my requests will be getting solved from my AP South 2B, right? You see, none of my requests will go to my AP South 1A. Yeah, I can still vote it, right? My favorite service RDS, I can still vote it. It's not given, user is not at all getting any downtime. User can still voting, user can still use my application, but all the time, with no time, my application get transferred to my AP South 2B, and I'm running my application. You see, I have now, I have a dashboard which my SRE or DevOps team can view. Okay, hey, something happened to AP South, you are able to see, right? So why I'm just asking is because I'm seeing something extra. Okay, I'll just you see, Mumbai is became unhealthy, and all the traffic is started booming in my Hyderabad region. So that way, I've simulated a complete region failure, right? Anything happened to my Mumbai region, all of my application will be get transferred to Hyderabad, and your SRE team can in Grafana they can they can have multiple tools, right? They can either Splunk integration or they can put it to Slack or anything. They can get notice. Okay, something happened to Mumbai, and our application within seamlessly moved to Hyderabad, and it started moving, right? So that's way I have made my application very resilient. And these are all simulation, but again, if you want to understand how I have created it, I'll just show it to you also. So what I've did is I have just created Route 53. I'll just show it. See, so see, all these are unhealthy because if you see here, one, so there's a cumulative health check also. See this one. So what it does is it has a URL. This URL is nothing but my load balancer URL, and it's expecting a data from the my DynamoDB that who is the top player of the application or top player in that particular table. But now what I have did is I have used something called FIS. I'll just show how they have did in the backend. I'm just explaining so that it makes sense what I'm doing, right? So during FIS, I have to make sure that this is just now completed September 8 o'clock, sorry 16 o'clock. So what I'm doing is I'm adding some kind of NACL rule. So FIS is again very much used service by this Netflix chaos engineering concept, and most of the time you can test your application. So this is what a simulation. I am saying that just block all my NACL for that particular subnet, all three subnet, so that no one can send any request, right? Similarly, my Route 50 health check will fail now, right? So that's way my traffic will not go to that particular subnet or to particular region, and traffic will get shifted, right? So that is one way of showing how you can maintain a resilient application. So see, anytime my application will be still, this experiment will run for 3 minutes. So I think that's why it got completed. So if you see, after 3 minutes, again, send back to the original one. So that way when you run an application, right, this comes under multiple things, right? What I'm trying to show is you should have right metrics, you should have right logs to measure the observability pillar. Like you should see your DevOps SRE team can see the lot of metrics. I have just showed 10-15 metrics, but at least you have a lot of metrics which will tell you something happened. And then you can also see what kind of simulation I can do. We have like FIS is again very much used service for making a highly resilient application, and you can simulate any kind of failure, be it on container, be it on EC2, be it on any time. You can also simulate those failure. So that's why I can make sure that any point of time something happened, I have an active services running in the Hyderabad. But again, depend on use case. I think it makes sense, right? Any doubt or any question in this demo or any doubt here you have? Happy to answer. Like this is like a good way of starting or understanding the resiliency feature. But
I think that's good, man. I think anyone any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, one question. Do you have any it's a two question basically. One is for Grafana dashboard that you showed. Is it like a standard dashboard that is available for everyone, or did you build something on top of it? And the second question is for let's say if you want to measure the latency throughout the application journey from request to actual response, how do you recommend to structure it so that the service itself should not add more latency?
Correct. So I'll answer the first one. This is fairly easy one to answer. So this one, so basically when you create a graph, it's not a typical. I have customized it to answer you. I have customized it.
Okay.
So what I've did is I have just used a JSON file, like imported the JSON file, right? When you once you add the data source in Grafana, you can import the JSON file, right? So there I have did some kind of customization. But again, this very much I have picked it from GitHub or even from the Grafana public doc also. But only thing is you have to change based on your like this two side and all. I've just do some customization, but these are all very much available in the Grafana dashboard. Okay.
Yeah,
So that one,
yeah, so the more fundamental question behind this question is everything that you showed as a normal user who is using AWS from a client point of view, right? Can I do the same thing, right? Or is it something where you have used internal AWS tool to?
no. It's you can do it from the user itself. I can send the link also if you need. It's
Okay,
just a client, yeah.
sure,
No,
sure.
nothing AWS fancy thing. It's just open source. I've just created the JSON file, uploaded it. That's it.
Okay, sure, perfect.
But what I'm to see, the only thing is I'm just trying to show the dashboard which key decision maker can take some decision. Not
Yeah.
only SRE and DevOps in it. So some business metric also I can include, right? Request count. So these are all how I business understand, right? So how many request count I'm getting. If something happen, immediately triggering a Slack. I think I'm not open to Slack, but Slack integration also. So a lot of things that you can do through this automation. Okay. The second part of the question is I think how we can latency, right? So see, what happened is I think you must have seen about CloudWatch. Most of
Yes.
the believe that CloudWatch is just a monitoring tool or just a logging tool that we started. Right? Even when I joined AWS 2016, it was just a monitoring tool. All this feature was not there. Okay, even though I'm in Mumbai, sorry, I'll just go to US East one also. There are a lot of extra feature that you see. Okay, it is coming slowly to Mumbai, everything, but a lot of features are there. But see, all these extra traces under service map, right? So this is where you can integrate your tracing, distributed tracing, right? So you can create a service map that will tell how my request had traveled or how my request has gone from one of the backend to one of the downstream to the other upstream. So those things you can see it in the service map page. The other thing is it's not about service map. You can also do something on the other thing like uh, internet monitor. Let's say you want to know that it's not my application, something else causing the issue, right? Those things also you can see in the internet monitoring. Let's say something on the you want to make sure that before me my customer is getting issue, right? So this is where also you can see some kind of real user monitoring. If your customer is getting issue, immediately you can get you can enable run so that it can flag you and it can notify you or it can give some alarm in your CloudWatch so that you can know that before your customer get into issues or any 5x's they are getting, you also get those kind of configuration you can do for your application. So all these features are can be possible through CloudWatch as a.
Yeah, but what all are available in Mumbai region or in?
Yeah, Mumbai only these two are not available. Evidently and RAM. Apart from that, everything is available. I'll just go to
Okay.
Mumbai.
And does it require any integration at the application level or can be configured from the AWS interface itself?
You can configure it here, but the only thing that required you should know the endpoint of your application. That's it.
Okay.
Which application is going to run the script? So let's say, for example, synthetic canaries and all. Let's say I want to make sure that I want to run some kind of script or some kind of Python program so that if something happen, just switch it immediately to other do the A/B testing that you do, right? So those things you need to know your application endpoint. That's it. Apart from that, it will completely AWS thing.
Okay.
Did that answer your question or?
Yes, very much. Yeah. I'll probably play around and if anything
Yeah,
is
let me.
required,
Yeah, we can connect after this, or sometimes maybe we can connect and
Sure.
if anything more you can. Yeah. So the whole demo is again like want to see so that how we can integrate various services. The only services that I missed to talk about is Resiliency Hub. I'll just show it here quickly. So I've logged into another account, but whole thing is it can tell you the RPO and RTO. Okay, I have already one. Yeah, so this is what a services that newly launched, not newly, at least 6 to 8 months now. So what it tells you is like I have application now, and that application is feasible with what RPO and RTO that you define, right? If it is going to meet that particular version or not, I'll just show that. Yeah. Yeah, see, what I have defined is I have defined a target RPO of 1 hour, infrastructure of 5 minutes, and availability zone 5 minutes. What it's saying is, no, it's not unrecoverable. And what kind of resiliency recommendation it will provide me. So these are all things you have to say that you will change this thing. Then what is the cost of this changing this? All this thing it will tell. Based on that, you can change all the application and recommendation you can take. And then again, you can run the assessment and then it will be like compliant or non-compliant. It will be like give a result. So the policy is. So those services are very much effective, or it's a kind of free, not free, at least kind of 6 months free for 3 services, but doesn't charge much, but at least help you to maintain a very well resilient application at AWS. So these two services I'll highly recommend: Resilience Hub and FIS, that can be integrated to your application if you are looking for a highly resilient application. Cool. So that's all I think I have. Like consideration part, I think I somehow covered.
So, Nan, I have one question.
Yeah.
So let's imagine I am responsible for ensuring resilience of an application, right, hosted on AWS. So during a routine review, I find that RPO is set at 4 hours and RTO is set at 6 hours. Okay. So suppose a critical failure occurs, like some data is lost. So how can I, meet these RPO and RTO requirements?
Can you like so data is lost when you say so this is incident happened, or like can you just put more context there? What do you mean by data is lost? Is it like something deleted, or something just happened?
So suppose there was a critical, failure with my DB.
Okay.
So how can I configure my RTO and RPO
Okay, so the question is, how should I
requirements?
come to, okay, how should I come to an RPO decision? That is what you're asking. Is that
Right,
correct?
right, right.
Okay. So again, it has to, like, you have to know that, like, again, I'll suggest to use this resiliency hub that will so the whole point of resiliency hub, it will be read your application. It will nothing do damage on your application, but it will read your application, and then it will tell from the infrastructure side, it will tell the application side that how much time it will take to recover it. But let's say some application level issues, let's say you say data is deleted, because that is again cannot recover, right? When you back up
Yeah.
and restore it, then it will be not able to do it. So those kind of thing, I think, only can be helpful in two ways. That is what, okay, I'll think I can relate it. So we have done multiple so two things. So have you, like, are you doing regular drills for your organization by any chance?
No,
Yeah, so
not
that is
regular.
the first thing that you need to do. See, so every time when you talk about resiliency, we first thing that we talk to customers, can we do a drill at least to understand to where are you now? Okay, because let's not do it in a production time, but at least let's do it on a off business hour. Is actually application is coming up or not? So that's the first thing that you have to do. Do a
So we have already integrated our CloudWatch alarms with it, and already set Slack notifications. So we are not performing continuous drills.
Yeah, so that's what, right? The only way to detect some kind of internal application failure is to through drill only. Like you can do some kind of chaos thing, and some
Sure.
kind of FIS you can integrate. Like, okay, hey, let's do a chaos engineering way of using FIS and see actually application is recovering or not. If not, then obviously it's some issue, and then based on that we can take action. But there is no straightforward way like how any AWS service will detect customer data, because that's where not AWS is not built, right? So it's up to us to do some drills and give some game days or something like that. Then only we can understand it. Okay, that's the most of the time we do the DR drills. Then only we know that no, it's not in place, and then use the services like Resiliency Hub and other services to know that, okay, how our application is not actually resilient. Let's take some action. What is suggested by AWS? Maybe Tapis, so what you do is I'll connect with you on understanding what the exact failure that you have gone through.
Sure.
Then I can suggest, yeah. I'll just send me your email or something. I can connect sometimes.
Sure, I'll send you.
Sure.
I'll mail you on your mail
Yeah.
address.
Let's go deep dive on that because without knowing what happened.
Sure. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Nayan. That was quite useful. And I hope, everyone would have got a way to think now about resiliency and data backup.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Yeah, Nayan has shared his coordinates. Please do feel free to reach out to him in case of any questions at all.